Good afternoon, everyone. This is Annette Manius with Oasis Solutions, and thank you all for joining us today. This is our Sage 100 Sales Order Tips and Tricks webinar, and everyone is going to be muted. But if you have questions, please put them into either the chat or the question and answer area, and we will make sure that they get answered. I know I still see some people logging on, but we're going to go ahead and start. It's a little bit after 2 o'clock. I just want to tell you all that this session is pre-recorded. Earlier in the year, Pam Scott, who's been with us for 25 years, decided to retire, and she was kind enough to record all these sessions through the end of the year so that we wouldn't have to worry about it. She's the one that always took care of it. So this session is pre-recorded, but we are here to answer questions, and the session will be sent out to you via email afterwards. So just let me know if you have any questions during the webinar. Thank you for coming.
To enter questions, and if the facilitator is unable to answer them during the presentation due to time constraints, someone will follow up with you after the presentation to answer those questions for you. So please do not hesitate to ask questions or let us know how we can help you in any way. So to get started, we're going to talk about some of the various things that you can do within the sales order module. So we're going to first, the setup options in sales order can be quite extensive. You have your options. You have where you can, if you're using the shipping feature, where you set up your shipper ID maintenance. This is where you can set up your miscellaneous codes if you're selling things that are not inventory related items, and so forth. So in taking a look at those sales order options, you will see that there are many things that you can do in here, and I'm going to just touch base on a couple of them. The first thing that you have the ability to do is enable shipping. And basically the shipping feature is where you can have people in your warehouse have access to only the shipping feature in Sage. And they can basically fulfill orders based on the picking sheet or whatever, so they can fulfill those orders. You can also have them you can print packing slips and do various things with enabling that shipping. So it's a very easy process. It's kind of a limited process. It's not going to do anything related to major calculations relating to shipping, or if you're using UPS WorldShip or something of that nature. But it is a feature within Sage, and it has been there for several years. Now, if you need a more advanced shipping software with barcode scanning capabilities and so forth, please get in touch with Jody Patterson at our office at Jody, Jody, at oasisky.com, and she can provide you with information regarding scanning options that you may be interested in. Also, if you, again, that kind of ties with barcode scanning. We also have more advanced shipping software that can be added on as well to help with you with sales order. And also, if you are doing EDI or have the need to do EDI, that is also something we can help you with because we do have EDI vendors that we work with and that provide solutions to our Sage 100 customers. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're ever wondering, well, you know, I really would like to be able to do this. Then let us know and we will work to find a solution to help you with your situation. If you notice on the right, the sales order module can integrate with general ledger, which you would want. It integrates with inventory, which I'm assuming if you're using sales order, you do have inventory. And if you're using job cost, you can also integrate with job cost. One of the main differences in why people invoice out of sales order versus accounts receivable is that sales order integrates with inventory and accounts receivable does not. So you still have to have AR because that's where your customer database is stored and where your history is kept, and you do your cash receipt entries and so forth, but you would do your billing out of sales order. So that's kind of the difference between why you would have sales order versus just having a standalone AR, is it does tie into inventory. So again, like I said, there's quite a bit involved in the sales order setup. So if you ever wonder, well, I don't know why it does this or it doesn't do that, or why can I do function, a certain function in company ABC, but I cannot do the same function in XYZ? Doesn't make any sense to me. It literally could be that the setup options, there's a box checked in the ABC company that is not checked in the XYZ company. So could be a very simple explanation for that, and you just need to compare and look at your setups. So again, I just kind of wanted to briefly point out those options. And there's also various things in how long you want to keep history. For instance, on this entry tab, it's how long do you want to keep expired quotes. On the history tab that I'm going to move to, you have the number of years to retain sales history, and the minimum is 2 years, and you can take it up to 99 years. If you track lot or serial numbers, it wants to know if you want to retain that history. And if you use lot and serial numbers, I can't imagine that you would not want to retain that history. That's very important if there's a recall or something of that nature. You can tell it if you want to retain sales orders, retain sales order and quote history. And also if you want to retain deleted sales orders and quotes. And I'm kind of a firm believer that I prefer to track all the history that I can. And then if I decide that I don't need it, I can always purge it out, or I can turn off that feature later. But until you turn the feature on, it's not going to start tracking that history. So in deleting sales orders, retaining those deleted orders and quotes, or the deleted lines, you have options. You have yes, no, or prompt, and you have the same for the deleted lines on the sales orders and quote, yes, no, and prompt. If you say yes, it obviously will retain those in your history. If you say no, they do not. And if you say prompt, it is going to prompt the person doing the deletion to provide a reason code as to why those lines are being deleted, or the entire sales order or quote is being deleted. My recommendation, number one, is never have that set to no. It opens you up to employee fraud. It opens you up to, I can have somebody walk into our counter and I can do a quote for them or enter a sales order, collect the money, And then when they leave, I can delete that sales order, and you never know that it happened. And then you start realizing that your inventory isn't correct. So it just really helps eliminate any type of issues like that. And over the years, I have seen that happen. So my recommendation, and again, is either you set it to yes and it tracks everything, or if you want to know why it was deleted, you can set it to prompt. And I'm going to just show you something real quick with that being set to prompt. I'm going to exit out of my options, and under setup, there's an area called cancel and reason code. If you have that set to prompt, it's going to make you give a reason why you're deleting that line, or you're deleting the entire order or quote. And these are reasons that we have set up, but you can set up other reasons if for whatever you want. And this may already be in there, but if I might do quantity and just do, you know, unable to fulfill total quantity needed, total quantity. And then you can accept that. And then when you go to delete that line and it prompts you and you do a lookup, then that's going to be on your list. Whoops, clicked on the wrong thing. So again, if there's a reason, if there's something on here that you don't need, that this tax schedule has nothing to do with it any longer and you don't need that, then you can work to get rid of some of those lines. Some of these are predefined, and you'll notice I can't remove them. But then as you get into the items that are not predefined and you're adding yourself, you'll notice that I can remove those if I need to. So this one found a better price. They placed the order, they call you back and said, hey, we want to cancel our order because we found a better price down the road. So that if I wanted to move this restricted warehouse one, oh, that one's a default too. But the one I just added, I can literally just click this little X and it's going to remove it from my list. So think about that. With that in mind, you also want to make sure that not everyone in your organization has access to the setups of any of your modules. And that is controlled by the role maintenance and your user ID. So each user is assigned a role, and within that role, it says what they can do and what they cannot do. So just make sure that you are limiting the role and that the user only has access to what they need to have access to. And also that your employees are not sharing their user ID and logins. So anyway, so that's just kind of a quick run through and discussing a little bit about the sales order options. And bear with me just a second. Okay, just wanted to double check something. The next thing that we're going to talk about are the various things that you can do in sales order entry. So I'm going to go into the sales order entry screen, and I'm just going to issue the next sales order number. And I have various types that listed here. It's always going to default unless we do some changes through custom office. The main default is to a standard order. But if you click your drop-down box, you can also do quotes in here. So if you want to do quotes and send those to your customer and have them approve them, then you can then turn that quote into a sales order, or you can turn that quote into an invoice. So you can, you can do that as well. If you're doing quotes, you can have a separate form set up specifically for quotes. So on that quote form, you might add a line for approval where they can add a signature and approve that quote and get that back to you. If you are having a sale in May, You can add, information about that sale that goes out on your quote so that they're aware of that. You can also add that same type of information to regular sales orders and to your sales order invoices. But I did want you to know that you can do quotes and that you can then turn those quotes into sales orders if the and/or invoices if the customer accepts it. Now, there are clients that I'm aware of that have various maybe industry-specific quoting software that is not integrated with Sage. One example would be there's a product called AutoQuote, and that product is used a lot in the restaurant equipment business industry. Maybe you have a separate CRM product, not Sage CRM, but another CRM product, and you do quotes in your CRM product, but then you want to be able to get those approved quotes into Sage. So if you're using a third-party software, Oasis can work with you on doing an integration, or it may be something as simple as you export those approved quotes out of your CRM software, and we import those directly into the sales order entry or sales order invoices. So there's lots of things that we can do to help you automate so that if you are using a separate quoting system, you're not having to go in and manually rekey everything into Sage. So just keep that in the back of your mind, and if you're looking for ways to streamline processes, please reach out to our support team, and we will be glad to let you know what we've done in the past. We may have already worked on a solution with other clients and have something readily available, or we can talk with you and do something that's designed specifically for you and your business. And if you use Sage CRM, then you also can integrate Sage CRM with Sage 100, and there is some integration with things going back and forth. So those are things to take into consideration as well. The other things that you can do, I'm going to cancel this. The other things that you can do in sales order entry is you have master orders and you have repeating orders. And if you think about those, a repeating order, some people call it a blanket order, but if you have customers that routinely buy certain items every month, you can create a repeating order with all of that detail. So you would go to your Lines tab. You can pull in that information. I'm just going to set up some items here. And you might find that you have, up to 100 different items that they may order each month. So you can kind of do this as a template as well. So you're going to create that repeating order. You're going to put in the items that they normally buy and what the normal quantity is. And then each month when they are ready to place an order, if it's always the same quantity, you can actually auto-generate a sales order from this repeating order. Or if your customer, this is what they normally order, but each month maybe they remove an item, or maybe the quantity is a little bit different, they need to add to the quantity or maybe subtract to it, you can still do that as well. So let me show you, let me look at, okay. So what you would do is you're going to issue a regular sales order. You're going to reference the repeating order number. So this is the one that I just did. And you'll notice that when I do a lookup, it shows me every repeating order or master order that I've already entered into my system that is not expired. So if it says M, it's a master order. If it says R, it's a repeating order. So I'm going to select that. So when I reference the repeating order, it automatically knows who my customer is. I can change any information as far as ship to date. I'm just going to make this non-taxable for ease of demo. I'm going to go to my lines tab, and it pulls in everything that was on my repeating order. So let's say this month my customer has told me that this particular line item for this desk, they actually need 2 this month. So I'm going to change the quantity ordered to 2. And let's say looks like I've duplicated items here. Let's say that this printer stand, they've decided they don't need it all this month. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm just going to delete this line. Now, I'm modifying my sales order. It is not going to impact my repeating order. Okay? So I put the information in, I accept it, and now I've done my sales order entry, and I'm ready to turn that into an invoice. Bear with me just a second. I had something else I was going to tell you guys. With the repeating order, it was something about the repeating order. It will come to me in a moment. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. The repeating order, let me go back and just grab that repeating order real quick. If you'll notice, once you've issued sales orders against it, it tracks the last time there was an order placed and what the last sales order number was. But what I was wanting to show you is the expiration date. So let's say that your customer says, this is what I want to order every month for the next 12 months. You know, what kind of deal can you give me? You say, well, I can give you a 10% discount if you're going to order all of this every month. But that's only good through the end of the year. So I could make this expire at the end of the year, and I could no longer do an auto generate of a sales order against this repeating order if it's past the expiration date. So you can also build that in as well. So hopefully that will give you some information on repeating orders and how they can be used. A master order works basically the same way, except it is more of like, it's kind of the example that I just gave you, but let's say that they're going to order a large quantity, and we're going to order 10,000 widgets over the next 24 months. And, you know, we agree that we're going to buy those. We're going to take X number of months. Then you would want maybe to do a master order versus a repeating order, and you can issue a standard order off of that master as well. So hopefully that kind of makes sense on the 2 different things that you can do. But I like to think of that repeating order almost as a template, because I have clients that I work with that each month their customers might order 300 items every month. And if you have all of those items on a repeating order, you can turn that into the standard order and then just change the applicable lines instead of having to key 300 lines every single month. So just kind of think of it as saving you some invoice data entry time every month. If they order 1 item every month and it's always the same thing, you're probably not going to save that much time doing a repeating order. But if it's multiple items, then it certainly could save you some time. So I just wanted to make you aware of that so that you can do quotes, you can do repeating orders, you can also do master orders. You can turn your quotes directly into an order. You can also turn your sales orders directly in, you can reference your sales orders on invoices. So it just depends on what your process is. We have clients that do not do formal quotes. They don't even do sales order entry. They just go straight into invoice data entry. Whatever the customer tells them they want to invoice, they go in and they bypass the quote and the sales order, that is perfectly fine. You don't have to do these first two steps. It's just an option if it will help you in your business. And again, you know, doing that quote with Crystal Reports, you have the ability to do a very nice document to present to your customer or to a prospect. If you're working with a prospect, that gives, you know, a nice presentation to them. So if you have any questions about how to do standard orders, repeating orders, master orders, or quotes, if you will just reach out to our help desk, you can either call them at 502-429-6902, extension 227, or you can email them with non-urgent issues at email them at techsupport@oasisky.com. And again, someone will be more than glad to help you. Now, on your master orders and repeating orders, so let's say that your business, you do a lot of repeating orders, and it's something you want to turn into a regular order every month. You have the option to do auto-generate orders, and you could tell it that you want to auto-generate from repeating orders. You could do it for a certain salesperson. You could do it for a certain sales order number, ranges, a cycle code. You know, maybe that repeating order is something that they want to fulfill weekly. Maybe it's something they want to fulfill monthly or quarterly. So you can give a cycle code to that repeating order as well. Let me show you where that field is real quick. So it's right here. Now you'll notice there's not a drop-down listed here. So your cycle code, you need to be consistent. So whoever's entering in these orders needs to be consistent. And I would do something like, if they want something fulfilled on a weekly basis, I would use a code of maybe W. If it's something that they want done on a monthly basis, maybe use a code of M. Quarterly, use Q. So you can use those cycle codes as well. You also, if you're, you know, calculating that expiration date, but you can go in to generate those orders, put in your selection. You're going to click proceed, and then what it's going to do is it's going to generate any repeating orders that fall into your selection criteria. It is going to create those orders. And if I go to my printer and preview, I'm going to see every order that it's going to generate. If for some reason I realize I should have put in a criteria of just W for weekly and not get everything out there, I can close this out. And see, when I close it out, it says, do you want to generate them? I realize I made a mistake. I'm going to say no. I'm going to go back into the auto generate orders, and I'm going to see the clear button. This indicates that I have a selection already in here. So I'm going to clear it, and then I can go back in and make my selection again. If I made a mistake, but I didn't catch it, and I went ahead and had it auto generate those sales orders, and then I needed to get rid of them, I would have to go into sales order entry and delete them. And if I have my settings set to prompt to retain those deleted sales orders, I'm going to have to give a reason code for each one of those that I'm removing. So this is another way to help you auto-generate those if you're utilizing this functionality. Okay. The sales order batch authorization, that's there if you were doing credit card processing within Sage 100. So if you're managing all of that outside of Sage, we do have options where you can set up your merchant information and actually have it do the credit card authorization from within Sage 100. and you can then process those batches, those credit card batches directly from within Sage 100. So if that's something you've ever thought about or kicked around, doing credit card processing, it's also applicable and works in accounts receivable. Again, let Jody Patterson know, and she will be glad to talk with you about your need and then make the applicable recommendations. And one of the final things that we're going to talk about is in Sales Order, you have a lot of different inquiry screens that affect other modules. So this is so that you don't have to leave the Sales Order module, go to accounts receivable, go to customer maintenance, and look up some customer information. You don't have to exit out and go to inventory and do a lookup. You can do a customer inquiry. You can do an invoice history inquiry, an inventory item inquiry, sales order and quote history, and also with the RMA module, if you're using the RMA, you can do an inquiry there as well. So it's just kind of to save you some steps. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on customer inquiry, and it's going to take me directly to my customer inquiry screen. This is good, especially because you having access to these inquiry screens allows your warehouse personnel to look things up, but it doesn't put them in the master file where they can make any changes. So it's inquiry basis only. And again, if I want to do an item inquiry, it's going to take me directly into the inventory maintenance item inquiry, and I can do a lookup there. All of these inquiries are also subject to having the proper role permission to be able to access those. So again, you can limit who has access to that as well. And we're going to move down to the utilities. The utilities give you some ways to purge history. You know, even though you're telling it in the setup options how long you want to keep history, you may decide, well, you know what, I really want to go in and purge out some of this old information. And what I will tell you is that before you purge, number one, you need to make sure you have a good backup. And I would do it, you know, maybe you know that you get a good backup every night. Do it the first thing in the morning before people have done a lot of invoice data entry, in case you have to do a restore. Because depending on what you purge and how it affects other modules, you may have to restore more than just the sales order module. So just kind of keep that in mind, that it may affect more than just you for the day. If you have to restore, it may affect other team members as well. But you have the ability to purge out expired quotes and orders. And again, we saw where on the orders, you can give it an expiration date. You can do the same thing on a sales order. You can give it an expiration date. You can purge obsolete sales orders. Let's say that you're new to the position and you see that there are old sales orders out there from 10 years ago that just need to go away. And they, when they entered them in, they let the default expiration date of 12/31/59/99. They just left that as the expiration date. So they're not expired, so you can't purge them that way, but you can go in and purge obsolete sales orders. You can purge your order and quote history. You can purge your lot and serial history, your sales history, your sales order recap, and also you can go back and create sales order and quote history should you not be keeping something. So this you can go back and create some history, but with most everything else, when you purge it, it is gone, and there's no way to get that information back. So always make sure you have a good backup, and not just if you're purging history, you need to make sure that you have a good backup in general, and that your getting all the information that you need. We will be having a webinar in September that will talk about antivirus, but also we spend quite a bit of time talking about the proper backup of your Sage 100 software. So you might want to attend that as well. If you have a more urgent need, or you're concerned about you're not getting a backup, or is it being done properly, reach out to our help desk. You want to make sure you remedy that problem now, other than you purge history and realize you can't restore, or heaven forbid you get some type of a virus, ransomware, something of that nature, and your files are locked and you don't have a backup of your Sage 100. So that can be very, very devastating to a business if you find out that you don't have a good backup. So with all that being said, I just want to leave you today with a couple of things. Number one, if you have submitted questions during this presentation, they will be addressed. If they're not addressed during the presentation with you, they will follow up with the information. If you need support for any particular reason, as always, you can reach out to us either by phone or by email. And if you have not upgraded your Sage 100 for a while, and if you're running a retired version or a version that is about to retire, you need to get in touch with us so we can get you upgraded. The supported versions currently are the 2021, 2020, and 2019 versions. And so you just want to make sure if you're running 2018 or lower, you need to get in touch with Garen Stout at gstout@oasisky.com and let her know that you're interested in upgrading your Sage 100. So just keep those things in mind. I hope you found the presentation helpful today. And again, I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for joining us today, and we will send this recording out to everyone as soon as we get it downloaded. And if you have any additional questions, just let us know. Hope to see you next month. Thanks.